The Washington Wizards finally got their franchise cornerstone in AJ Dybantsa. At 6 foot 8.5 inches barefoot, 217 pounds with a 7 foot half inch wingspan and a 42-inch max vert, Dybantsa feels like he was made in a lab to be the number one pick. Physical tools are phenomenal, but it's what Dybantsa does on the court that really matters. Let's dive into why Dybantsa was the number one pick, why he's a perfect fit for Washington, and what he still needs to improve on. I'm Tyler Metcalf. Welcome to Film School. So I think the most obvious place that we have to start with Dybantsa's game is his scoring, because he is one of the most polished freshman scorers that we've seen in a very, very long time. Let's start from inside and we'll work our way out because the biggest selling point with Dybantsa scoring is his effortless ability to get to the rim whenever he wants. His ability to blend speed and power and craft and creation and creativity with deceleration and elongated strides and changing up his stride length is really, really special. And it's a type of footwork and physicality and creation that isn't just given. It's stuff that he's very clearly worked to master year over year over year because he moves and gets to the rim like polished NBA veterans. The way that he stretches out his strides and on spin moves, on hesitation, working off of a pivot foot to get to the rim is really special and a big reason why he shot 63% at the rim despite defenses knowing that he was the number one offensive option on BYU, especially once Richie Saunders hurt his knee, and even more of the defensive focus went to Dybantsa. Aside from the finishing, though, Dybantsa's ability to draw fouls and play with physicality is special. Like he's going to get 8 to 12 points a night in his sleep at the line. The fact that he had a 49 free throw rate is really crucial going forward because it tells us the levels of physicality that he plays with, the level of craft that he plays with, and how he's able to generate super easy, highly efficient shots constantly. One of the common themes throughout all of these clips are his ability to blend that power with speed, with finesse. Very few players have that. When we look at how this can fit with the Wizards early on, they don't have anyone on the roster who can do this kind of stuff. The way that he's able to split doubles in that range, where he's able to fight through a stronger defender, rip through, finish through the contact, be 6'9" in shoes, and take the ball on the perimeter and get buckets like this on a regular basis, that's going to make Trey Young's life easier. That's going to make Trey Johnson's life easier. It's going to make everyone's life easier because he's the type of guy where you can just throw him the ball and say, go. There are very few of those players actually in the league, and AJ Dybantsa is one of those from day one. Just subtle stuff like how he veers through this drive here. It's may not seem like a lot right off the bat, but drives to his left, recognizes drop defender or primary rim protector, kind of caught in no man's land. Instead of barreling towards him, he just does a great job of right when he plants this right foot, he does such a good job of changing directions, angling back towards the right side of the rim, using that seal by his teammate really, really well, finishing on the far side of the hoop. He does such a tremendous job of recognizing those angles that he can exploit, toying with defenders, getting to his spots whenever he wants, and he'll use one move to set up the next, to set up the next, to set up the next, and he's just patient and methodical. Whether it's in an on ball or off ball roll, it doesn't really matter because once he gets a step on you, you're toast. He's too strong to get back rim side, and with NBA shooters, with NBA level creators, it's only going to make the defender's job even more difficult than it already is because you can't send secondary defenders, especially since his playmaking has continued to improve a ton. And we'll get to a lot of that later. But when we think about Dybantsa being surrounded by perimeter shooters and scorers like Keyshawn George or Trey Johnson, Trey Young, Alex Sarr, if the shot continues to develop, Anthony Davis, like there are so many weapons where on the Wizards, emerging weapons where help defenders cannot collapse because if they do, then AJ's going to kick out. And what that allows AJ to do is to face a lot of these one on one matchups, get downhill, get to the rim, finish through contact, finish above the rim, below the rim, through the defender, around the defender, or just draw a foul. Very few players have this blend of speed, craft, creativity, footwork, and bully ball. From day one, AJ Dybantsa is going to be a monster scorer, and primarily because he's so good at getting to the rim whenever he wants. Now, at AJ's size, being able to get to the rim whenever he wants is a pretty translatable skill, but you still have to have something else. And again, from day one, his elite skill, aside from the rim pressure, is his mid range scoring. The craft and creativity that we saw getting downhill and physicality that we saw with the rim pressure stuff, it's all mirrored in his mid-range scoring game as well. The way that he can work off of a pivot foot, play off of 1 foot, 2 feet, it doesn't matter. He is an absolute master in the mid-range already at his young age. That's special. And now I know the immediate pushback is going to be, oh, well, it's an inefficient shot. It's not an inefficient shot for everyone. For the superstars, the absolute apex guys in the league, they're allowed to live in this range. They're allowed to dissect opponents, go one on one, go old school, and take these types of shots. And AJ's also allowed to and going to be allowed to because he's already better than the vast majority of NBA players in this range. He ranked in the 92nd percentile in mid range jumper frequency inside of 17 feet and the 88th percentile in points per shot. That is high volume, high efficiency. It's exactly what you want to see from your superstar wing. The fact that he can go back to the basket, spin move, pull up, pump fake, step through, it doesn't matter. He is an absolute wizard. What I love most about a lot of these clips, like this one specifically, is how on balance he just constantly is. Like when he comes out of the spin move, he covers a ton of ground, quick rip through, doesn't let the defender get set, quick rip through, gets downhill, recognizes the gap coverage, or the aggressive rotation to cut off the drive. You would hate seeing just a kick out to Richie Saunders in strong side corner because you never help off strong side corner, but alas, we move on because he does such a great job of feeling the defender on his hip, spinning back middle, and now he's taking off in the middle of the lane. And not only is he taking off in the middle of the lane, but he's playing off at 2 feet, elevating really high, gets a little bit of a fade in there just to create an even bigger window. But at 6'9", 6'10" in shoes with that high release point, that is almost impossible to defend, especially when he's that quick flowing into it. And that on balance, he's so strong that you can't knock him off balance, and he's always playing through contact. A lot of guys where they're spinning and throwing together some really elaborate footwork in the mid range, you can typically bump them off their spots, bump them or make them uncomfortable, bump them off balance, and you just can never do that with AJ because he is constantly dictating the tempo that you're playing at and the physicality that you're playing at. I love the dribble sequence here, the way that he just sets up his defender, jab step right, hang dribble back right, and Milan Momcilovic just has no chance. This type of stuff is immediately going to translate. And it's the exact same reasons that we talked about with the rim pressure, because being surrounded by NBA level shooters, it's going to create more of these one on one situations. And AJ Dybantsa proved all year that you just can't guard him one on one because he's too lethal, he's too methodical, and he's way too physical. Now, the vast majority of AJ Dybantsa's scoring came in on ball creation situations, isolation, pick and roll, post up. And while it was lower volume, he also found a lot of success as an off ball scorer. 64th percentile in spot up scoring, 76th percentile running off of screens, and the 81st percentile in handoffs. Now, again, it's lower volume, and I expect him to be a very high volume on ball creator and scorer at the NBA level as well. But as we can see throughout these clips, there are a lot of opportunities for him to be put in really advantageous positions by running off his screens. We mentioned it with the rim pressure and the mid-range scoring that once he has a step on you, it's almost impossible to recover because of his size, because of his athleticism. Now, if you can give him those opportunities in an off-ball situation where he doesn't have to self-create everything, it's going to make his life so much easier and constantly put his defenders on their heels because if they can't rest even in his off-ball reps, it's going to be an even bigger nightmare to defend him. So like as we see here, a little slip screen, ghost screen, shot fake gets the defender to jump. Now he's attacking downhill, and that's stuff that he doesn't have to self-create, where he's dribbling between his legs 5 times and throwing a head fake, and then taking 10 seconds to get the defender. Quick little slip screen, shot fake, and now he's in the mid-range pull up. That's super easy. Here, attacking a closeout, playing off of 2 feet. Really simple stuff. This one fakes the Iverson cut, flares back. Now he's going to work. It's a mismatch, and I mean this is just grown man basketball. But that action here, trying to run him off screens, this little action here, he's able to lose his defender. The fact that he loses Tunde already on the catch, that forces the switch, and now he already has the opposing big on a switch, and he can go to work because he knows that he has the advantage there. So those types of situations, little Iverson cut, and now he's downhill because the second that he catches this ball, once he gets through the screen, his defender's out of the play because the second he catches, it's catch and look at all of this space that he has to attack downhill. And again, this isn't self-created, but he's put in a situation where his life is made easier. And in the NBA, just running simple stuff like this, it's going to free up so many good looks for him and everyone else on the team. So even though AJ is a monster on ball creator, the fact that he can offensive rebound like this and relocate and run off of screens and Iverson screens and make Iverson cuts and run off of DHOs at a really high level and use that off ball movement and play off of the scoring gravity of a Trey Johnson, of a Trey Young, of an Anthony Davis to then create really high level and really efficient and effortless looks in an off ball role. That's where his scoring to me gets really fascinating, and the quicker that he gets that part of his game down, the quicker he becomes just almost impossible to defend. Now the biggest question with Dybantsa's scoring is the outside shot, which was super inconsistent this year, but it's a work in progress. And I love this clip specifically. So on the year, Dybantsa shot 30.1% from three off the catch, 35.8 off the bounce. Not good numbers. Those have to get better, but we're constantly seeing him work on it. And just already, the consistency with the arc is the biggest thing for him. So way too frequently, going back to high school and a lot of this year at BYU, he tends to shoot a really flat ball from the perimeter. As we can see here on this clip, a little out in front of him, shoots it kind of flat, goes back rim. That's fine. Resets, and we can just see how much better it looks just with that arc. I love this clip because it's the immediate back-to-back of a little flat and much better arc. And I know the ball disappears here for a second, but the way that you can really tell is one, how it bounces off the rim, but also just look at how the difference in time that the ball disappears on the top of the screen. And this is something that we constantly saw AJ working on all offseason when Albert and Corey went to go see him in pre-draft workouts out in California. This was something they were working on when we saw him at the Combine. This was something that he was working on, and already the consistency with it, the attention to detail with it, it's all trending in the right direction. So is he going to be Steph Curry from three? Probably not, but I'm pretty confident that it's going to get to a more than acceptable spot. Now, unfortunately, not everything with AJ's scoring game is perfect. He is really prone to over dribbling, playing with blinders, and taking really inefficient shots. I know I just said that in the mid-range scoring that he's one of these guys who's allowed to create and play in the mid-range and take those really tough shots, and he is, but at times it can get frustrating, and we saw a lot of that with some of the bad playmaking reads, some of the inconsistency with his passing, and some of the bad shot selection where he missed doubles rotating over and missed wide open teammates, and he just kind of drove into traffic without a plan. it that all felt more like a symptom of what we saw from him in high school, where he was almost hunting the foul first instead of trying to generate the best shot possible. It improved a lot this year with BYU, but there were still lingering effects of that. It's something that I think it's always going to be a part of his game because of how physical he is, because of how dynamic of a scorer he is, and that's okay. But the playmaking growth that we saw throughout the year has to continue to improve and has to continue to be a focal point of his game, because if it's not, then he's going to devolve into potentially one of these great stats bad team guys, and he's way too good and way too talented for that. So I would be surprised if we see him consistently fall into that, being, that kind of being that black hole scorer, because we did see significant growth in his playmaking. And again, sorry to keep teasing it, we'll get to it, I promise. But as we can see throughout a lot of these clips, there's a lot of over dribbling, there's a lot of missing kickouts, like this very first one. So he gets the ball 20 seconds on the shot clock, and he doesn't dribble until 16, and it's just not doing anything with it. I get there's not a whole lot of off ball movement, there's not a whole lot of screening action, there's nothing going on, but he doesn't actually attack downhill until 7 seconds left on the clock, goes straight into a really aggressive gap coverage. And this is like late in the year. So this is a mistake that he should not be making. Um, like just make that pass right away, and then you have a 2v1 situation on the weak side. It's that simple. And instead he barrels in, tries to make this acrobatic, careless skip pass to the corner that is going to get picked off 100% of the time through the contact, and it's a turnover. This is another good example of kind of the flat shot that he was a little prone to. Also, just attack downhill. A lot of space there. Get downhill. I get why he takes a three. He's open. But again, attack downhill. But we see it come flat out of his hand, way off to the left. That kind of stuff happens quite a bit. Then there was one more of the over dribbling that I want to jump to here at the end. Some of the predetermined playmaking reads, a little slow on making the reads, comes off this pick and roll, and he has Keita already, but he hesitates. Pass fake allows, I believe that's Tremon Mark, to identify where the ball's going. Super easy steal. I believe it's this one. So 24 seconds, he kind of gets into the half court set and just dribble, doesn't do anything. Teammates aren't helping him, but maybe swing it, get rid of it, and instead settles for a really bad jumper where let's try and get this full thing one more time. So crosses half court with 25 seconds left, on the shot clock. You're down by 6. Keita is there. He's not going to be creating his own shot, but Texas is trying to force the ball out of his hands. I get the situation. But like a little pocket pass there. Now you have a 3v2 with Davis on the weak side corner. Doesn't make the pass. Dribble. Okay, nothing. Vokatitis bails. He's in recovery mode. Maybe swing it to right. He can catch Davis cutting. Nothing. And we just go into a hang dribble into a really heavily contested pull-up three, which we just covered. Isn't his shot. And there's still 13 seconds left on the clock. So wasted about 12 seconds doing nothing, didn't move the ball, didn't pressure the defense at all in a really tight game where he had an opportunity to drive downhill, get the ball in the middle of the court, give it up, cut, get it back, and instead he settles for a really flat jumper that misses severely right with a lot of time left on the clock. So the vast majority of AJ Dybantsa's on ball creation and scoring, it's really fun. It's dynamic. It's mature. It's polished. There's so much to love. But there's also a lot of fat still to get out of there where the decision making, the over dribbling, playing with blinders, barreling into contact without a plan, all of that stuff still needs a lot of work. One of the biggest critiques that Dybantsa faced all year was that he's selfish, that he's not a playmaker, that he's not a passer, that he can't find teammates. And I know I just went through a bunch of clips where he wasn't making reads, where he wasn't seeing the floor. There are even more where he makes really awesome reads, finds teammates, uses his scoring gravity, and this was something that really grew throughout the year. Early in the year, when BYU scrimmage Nebraska, I broke down a lot of the real serious playmaking issues in Dybantsa's game. I've done a handful of videos on AJ throughout the season. Go back, check them out. But that the theme in that Nebraska game was he doesn't see the floor at all. He's not recognizing rotations. He's not recognizing where open teammates are. It was a disaster, and every single video I did since then really focused and highlighted how much his playmaking reads have improved. So for a guy who quote unquote doesn't pass, who isn't a facilitator, to have an assist rate of 22.1, a turnover rate of just 15, and a positive assist to turnover ratio, it's not bad. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want AJ Dybantsa to be like a pseudo point guard. That's not his role. That should never be his role. But what he can do is use his scoring gravity to a really high level to collapse the defense, draw secondary defenders, and then find cutters or weak side shooters and generate really high level shots in the flow of the offense using his scoring gravity and his ability to collapse the paint. And I know I say this every time whenever we talk about assists, but really important to remember to get an assist, the other guy has to make the shot. And that wasn't always the case this year at BYU. So as we can see here, like I I love these plays. Like there's so many where Dybantsa is collapsing the defense. He has four defenders in the paint here. Does a great job finding Richie Saunders, lethal shooter, weak side corner, bricks the shot. Here against Arizona, look at how the defense is loaded up on him. They know who the threat here is. There are five defenders on the right side of the court, and they are daring AJ to make a shot. Um, Now you could argue that he could have made this pass even earlier, um, where like before he drives here, could he skip that? Sure. Um, he's learning. It's working on it. But there's also a risk there of Karchenkov, who's a really good defender, of jumping that passing lane. So Dybantsa drives down, really forces the weak side rotation by Burries. So now Dybantsa knows that the low man, who was Burries, is now rotated over. Pete's on his shoulder. Krivas is under the rim. So as he pivots back, he's just looking for where Karchenkov is. He recognizes that he's replaced where Burries was, kicks it out to right, wide open three, as good of a look as you're going to generate, and the shot just doesn't go in. Those kinds of plays with Dybantsa were littered throughout his season. And it was something that he was not good at the start of the season. This is stuff that he's learned in a very short amount of time. So as we project forward and what his playmaking could continue to look like, it would be shocking if it doesn't improve. Because with more experience, as the game continues to slow down for him, this is the kind of stuff that should really accelerate, that should really speed up, and be just another cog in the wheel of how difficult he makes it for opposing teams to defend him. The ability to get to the rim and his spots in the mid range for his own scoring purposes is phenomenal. It's great, it's important, but the fact that it got to a point where he was able to do that while also creating for his teammates, that's what separates him from a lot of the inefficient mid range scorers that we see littered throughout the NBA. Those players are a dying breed. They still have their places, but they're not the superstars that they once were. Now the superstars can score like Dybantsa can, but now Dybantsa is starting to show the playmaking chops that those superstars have as well. If you're just going to be a mid-range scorer, your place in the league is rapidly being erased. But Dybantsa is continuously showing the growth in his game, showing us that he's more than just an athlete, more than just a scorer, and that he has a really high cerebral aspect to his game that is really starting to be unlocked in a way that it hasn't been in the past. If he continues to lean into this ability to use his scoring gravity to create for others within the flow of the offense, not as the primary guy, again, but as like a secondary playmaker, a secondary creator, and collapsing the defense and kicking out to Trey Young and kicking out to Trey Johnson and Keyshawn George and maybe Bilal Koulibaly's jumper takes a leap. Bub Carrington, like Washington has some really good off-ball shooters that should be able to thrive off of AJ's scoring gravity, and if they're willing to relocate, if they're willing to cut, rim run, run off of screens, make themselves available on the weak side, odds are AJ Dybantsa is going to find them. Maybe not immediately. There'll be some bumps in the road as he adjusts to NBA defenders and schemes and speed and athletes. But as we saw this year, the more he plays, the more he learns, and the speed that he's learning and growing and improving is really, really special. Now, I don't really have any concerns with AJ Dybantsa's offense in the NBA. Like, he's going to be just fine. What I do worry about, though, is the defense, which really surprised me coming into the year because coming out of high school, I liked a lot the way that he defended in FIBA his senior year. I thought the on ball defense took a major leap forward, but whether it's on ball, off ball, he was pretty much a disaster on that end of the floor this year. There were inconsistent fundamentals, inconsistent motor, a general laissez faire attitude. Like he just looked lost on that end of the floor. For someone his size, of his pedigree, of his athleticism, to have a block rate of 1.1, a steal rate of 1.7, and a defensive BPM of 1.1, those are horrible, horrible numbers. And we saw it all year where it was a symptom of a lack of effort, a lack of awareness, a lack of just executing his responsibilities, losing his man in rotation, getting caught ball watching. The off ball defense has kind of always been bad, but the really poor on ball stuff, that's what was really frustrating this year. Because coming into the year, he showed tremendous footwork, willingness to take the toughest assignment. Now, my hope is that it was a symptom of his context because no one on BYU was a good defender this year. As a team, they were pretty rough, but also he had to create so much on offense that my hope, I always hate when we have to do this, but my hope is that it was like, hey, just don't get in foul trouble. Be out there, try and do your best, but do not get in foul trouble. I hate that reasoning. I hate that rationale because the best players on the court should be able to play both ways no matter what. For starters here, horrible defensive stance. Super upright, bent over at the waist, just kind of going through the motions. Horrible, horrible footwork, horrible effort. Just kind of walked around chasing the ball. Similar thing here. Horrible screen navigation, goes way over the screen, and then just never fights to get back in the play. So once he's here, he needs to be veering back to Vokatitis because he's so far out of the play that he's not going to catch Swain, especially once Swain takes that jump stop to the right, further away from Dybantsa, dragging Keita over. Really nice play by Swain, by the way. But Dybantsa has to be veering back to Vokatitis. He's not going to probably not going to get a block or anything here, but you got to put a body on the guy so he can't catch that cleanly. It's way too easy. And instead of doing any of that, instead of going through, the very basic motions, Dybantsa just kind of lollygags back, gets caught in no man's land, doesn't do anything, and then just fakes a swipe at the ball. That kind of stuff drives me insane. Really kind of careless off ball defense here, just going around, jumping all over the place, just disengages entirely. That stuff is inexcusable. And he's way too good of a player, way too smart of a player to be consistently doing this kind of stuff as much as he did. At the NBA level, his scoring is going to be good enough that he's probably going to get away with it, especially early in his career. But as the seasons go on and as these bad habits continue to show up, he's going to get destroyed for it. Like, I, this is, what are we doing here? So he can very clearly see that Richie Saunders is switching here. Now, this is also a common theme with BYU's defense. Zero communication from anyone. But right here, as Blackwell's making this pass, Dybantsa needs to be getting back. Also, like, you're 6'9". Go with the bigger guy. Richie Saunders should not be switching and going down into the post on one of the opposing bigs. So lack of situational awareness, doesn't recognize anything, doesn't get back, and really easy pass to the roller. Kevin Young, not super thrilled about this, and then just kind of flies by on the shot fake, and the Wisconsin big botches the layup, so he gets away with it. But it's just little things. He doesn't even do the simple things where the ball watching here is brutal. Like, I get that it's early in the year, but can just like a little bit of awareness. Look over your left shoulder once to identify where your man is. It's the opposing center. odds are he might go towards the rim. AJ never recognizes it. Way too late now. Easy layup. So this type of ball watching, the laziness navigating screens, just turning off mid possession. He's guarding no one there. Constantly put himself and his teammates in really bad positions because of just a total disregard for the defensive end for the vast majority of the year in terms of fundamentals, in terms of effort. It was tough. And the reason that AJ's horrible defense is so frustrating is because he showed us on a handful of occasions that he's capable of playing really good defense when he wants to. And that phrase, when he wants to, drives me absolutely bonkers. Because when he wants to, he can be a lockdown defender. Like this stuff on Dalen Swain. This is awesome. Dalen Swain was one of the best wing creators in the country this year. And AJ absolutely puts the clamps on him early in this game. Does a great job sitting low in his stance, good balance, opens up his hips, slides his feet, plays with physicality, stays on balance, really quick active feet, high hand, times his shot contest to perfection, stays attached to Swain, gets the block or at least heavily affects that shot. He can do this when he wants. Caleb Wilson blocks him on ball. Caleb Wilson, big dude, had a heck of a year. Now, a little upright in the stance initially, bad footwork, but recovers nicely, stays grounded, times it, tremendous block. The fact that he was capable of doing this stuff whenever he wanted to is one of the most frustrating parts with young players. And we saw it throughout FIBA, we saw it in high school as well. So it's not like he's never been a good defender. It's not like he's allergic to defending. He's more than capable of doing it at an extremely high level. And he has a track record of taking the best defensive matchups when he wants to. I hate that we have to resort to, well, maybe it was a symptom of BYU and his offensive energy expenditure and responsibilities. I hate that. But my hope is that that's the case because as we can see throughout these clips, he's not allergic to playing good defense. When he wants to lock in, when he wants to sit in a stance, and when he wants to slide his feet, he's as good as anyone in the 2026 draft with his perimeter defense. The off ball consistency has always been an issue and needs a lot of work. But at a bare minimum, he absolutely has to show way better on ball defense like he did for spurts throughout this year with BYU and throughout his senior year in high school and with Team USA, because when he wants to, he could be, or once he commits to that end of the floor as well, he could be one of the very best wings in the entire league. So where does that leave us with AJ Dybantsa, who was the number one pick in the 2026 NBA draft? It makes a lot of sense that Dybantsa was the number one overall pick. Now, he finished number two on my board, but in that same tier with Darren Peterson and with Cam Boozer, who I had at three. But as we can see throughout the film and the measurables and the athletic testing, AJ Dybantsa is more than worthy of being the number one overall pick. He feels like he was made in a lab for what NBA teams dream about building their franchise around: an athletic, big, physical scoring wing. Sign me up any day of the week. The rim pressure doesn't really need any work. The mid-range scoring doesn't need any work. The way that he's able to get to his spots with speed, power, finesse, craft, draw fouls, finish through contact, around contact. It's some of the most polished scoring repertoire that we've seen from an incoming or from a one and done freshman coming into the league as a rookie in ages. That's how good of a scorer he is. Now, the outside shot needs some work, but when we think about his offensive fit with Washington, he immediately fills a massive glaring hole on their roster that they just don't have. I love the way that Keyshawn George grew this last year. He's not AJ Dybantsa. I love what Trey Johnson brings to the team. He's not AJ Dybantsa. Bilal Coulibaly is an awesome defender and still has, I think, a lot of offensive potential. He's not AJ Dybantsa. The Washington Wizards still have a lot to figure out as a team, and I think inserting AJ Dybantsa with his offensive repertoire, with his scoring versatility and his playmaking upside and his rebounding, helps them fast track a lot of those situations and issues that they need to figure out. He kind of puts them on like a speed run to becoming more of a playoff team a little quicker. Now, what has to happen is he has to improve as a defender, because if we continue to see the defense that we saw from him at BYU, the Wizards are going to get torched every single night. Having a defense with him and Trey Young, and Trey Johnson and Bub Carrington out there, like it could be a disaster. Their perimeter defense could be some of the worst in the league if AJ doesn't commit to that end of the floor. Now, I know that's asking a lot of a rookie. I'm not saying he needs to be all defensive team from day one, but he has that upside. If he wants to commit to that end of the floor, if he wants to be that type of player, he can be. He has the tools, he has the fundamentals, he has the track record of being that good of an on-ball defender. But the key is, does he want to? Is he going to be willing to buy into that end of the floor? And if he is, it really changes a lot of what this Washington future could look like. If he doesn't, does he peak at Carmelo Anthony? A Hall of Famer, incredible player, heck of a career, but can never quite win the big one, can never quite get over that hump. Now, I know a different era, playing with, having to face LeBron or battle through LeBron eventually, and some incredible Spurs and Lakers teams. Like, I get there are other mitigating factors there with Carmelo, but you get what I'm going at in terms of archetype, in terms of player. AJ Dybantsa has the tools to be the best wing in the league one day. But if he doesn't commit to the defensive end of the floor, he's going to fall really, really far short.